Let's build this strange looking fender skirt and see how it turns out. Coming up. How's it, jokes, and welcome back to Rat Rods for Africa, my one-man workshop out here in the forest. My name is Diff, as in difficult, except I'm not, or maybe as in different, I don't know. So in previous videos we discussed the possibility of a slotted fender skirt versus no skirt. There were very many different opinions, as it should be, and I appreciate that. But I've decided I'm going to build something anyway, mostly because I've never built a fender skirt before and I want to see if I can do it. So let's get into it. So first thing I'm going to do is to create myself a better template with this piece of 3mm 1/4 inch plywood that I've got clamped on here. First thing I notice is that this line is not flat, it is curved a little bit, so that's something to keep in mind for later. So what I'm going to do now is to carefully trace the shape on my piece of plywood, and then we can go and cut it out. So I've cut it out carefully. Now we've got a good fit along here. Also started playing with the openings. I think I'll probably refine them a little bit more. I have a feeling this is still too wide. We'll see. So I think for now the next thing for me then is to actually start creating a frame. So I can take this off. And I think I must take the wheel off as well so I can have access, easier access for working in here. Okay, so the truck is jacked up. Let's get this wheel off here. Tight fit, but it's coming out. There we go. I've got this piece of 6mm 1/4 inch round bar that I've roughly bent into shape. So it needs to go in something like that. I'm going to use my little jiggy clamps to hold it into place again. So these little jigs I made is now holding the second piece of round bar very nicely in place. It's all lining up beautifully. If you don't know about these little jigs, clamps, I'll put a link here on the screen to my previous video where I showed how they work and how they were made. So what I think I'm going to do now is I'm just going to lightly tack the second piece of round bar onto the first piece in some spots to hold it in place, and way down the line we can just grind off those tacks again to get it off. I didn't want to weld this close to the camera. I've already stuffed up one lens. But yeah, I've already tacked it here. Then I moved my clamps along, lined the bar up, tacked it here, and I'll take them off and keep moving them along and working my way all along the edge to line up the bar and tack it in place. I've juiced up my welding machine quite a bit so I can get a very hot little tack weld, because I just want a tiny one, so when I touch it I get immediate penetration. Right, so I've got the second round bar tacked on all the way along, so it will become part of the skirt. And once the skirt sheet metal is welded onto it, I can break the tacks and we will hopefully be able to remove the whole business. So to locate my skirt up here in this area and prevent it from coming out, I'm going to weld on a tab right there on the inside. Same here. Let me make a drawing, then I'll show you what my plan is. Here's a drawing of my plan. Hopefully it makes sense. It's obviously in section. So that would be the fender metal. And there's the piece of round bar that's welded to the edge of the fender. Down here's my skirt. Same story, round bar welded to the skirt. And then my little tab is going to weld to this piece of round bar, slot in behind that piece of round bar. Then I'm going to touch it from the outside with a bolt, I use a bolt with a nice head. This nut can be welded to this flat bar, or I can just tap this piece of flat bar, and then I suppose I will probably need a spacer in here to prevent this sheet metal here from being dented when you tighten it. So there, I've got this little bit of flat bar. I just gave it a little bend there to help the initial location. So the plan now is for this to weld on like that. And for attaching the skirt down here, I was just going to do these two little tabs with a bolt through there. But then I realized that if you take the skirt off, you're still going to be able to see the tab. We don't want that, because I do want to run the truck without a skirt, with no signs showing that it can take a skirt. I've cut it out according to my template, but now I'm going to remove another 4 millimeters, a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch, all along the edge here. Here's a close-up so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut that bit off. That's to allow for that, so we call it an offset, because I marked my template on that line, but I want my piece of metal to go and sit about there, so I have to remove that much. I'm just going to give this piece a little bit of a curve using my shop built slip roller. Maybe a tad more. Let's do it one more time. Right, let's go and try that. So before we go and give this a try, I just quickly made up this bottom piece as well, piece of 6mm 1/4" round bar. It's going to be fitting there in the end. I just roughly bent it to shape. Now this panel currently probably has too much curvature in it, but that's cool. I actually want that, because when we put it on, we can just push it into place, and we have a little bit of pre-tension in the panel, which will help to maintain the shape. Right, I finally got it in place. Geez, I've had this piece of plate in and out of here a number of times, just to trim the edges a little bit to make sure that it is right. But I think I got it now. So I'm going to tack it into place. Yeah, let's glue it on. Okay, so far so good. I've got the whole thing glued together, and if you look at it in this plane down here, I've got on that bottom edge, I've got a pretty sweet curve going there as well. If you look at it here from the top, you can see that bottom edge, it's curving very nicely. So my panel is not completely flat. Might need a little bit of fine tuning right there. But for the most part, it's looking pretty good. So now we need to see if we can get this thing off. That might be another story. So I'm going to cut my tacks and we'll see if it works. So now hopefully if I stick my screwdriver in here and wedge it, it should just drop right down. Haha, success! It dropped right out. The fabrication gods were definitely on my side. Look up there, birds are busy making a nest here above my workbench. Bits of grass sifting down all the time, making a right royal mess. But I'm going to leave them be. Live and let live, eh? I cleaned it up a little bit. And I would say if we were to go for a full skirt, we are now pretty much done. But yeah, of course I have to make my life difficult. Living up to my name a little bit, I guess. So I think I'm going to cut out these openings now. So now I've decided to make my life even more difficult. And I'm going to bead roll, or roll some beads rather, freehand, along all the edges of my cutouts first. So I've only got one chance of doing this right. If I screw it up, I need to discard this piece. So wish me luck. Sure, that took a bit of concentration. There's one curve that has got a tiny little wobble in it. But I'm going to leave it for you to see if you can find it. But for the most part, it's not too bad. So that has stiffened up the plate nicely, and I've created an edge for my cutouts. So now my plan is to cut this out. Same there, same there. Let's see how that turns out. Okay, lekker man. I've got my cutouts cleaned up. But yeah, as I suspected, these beads are not quite enough to support these pieces. So I'm going to have to give them some extra bracing. This one's not too bad, but this one is quite floppy. A piece of 6mm 1/4 inch round bar fits very nicely into that dimple made by the bead roller. So I think I'm going to tack these chappies, or this chappie, in here, and that'll stiffen it up quite nicely. So I fitted this 6mm 1/4 inch round bar to all my edges now. And this thing is now so strong, man. You can use it in an off-road application. So yeah, for a more ratty look, you'd probably have this on the outside. But I want to be more subtle, so that's what we're looking like from the outside at the moment. Right, so let's see if this thing's going to fit. My tabs must now slot in behind that round bar. There we go. So I need to stick in my bolts. One goes here. I can line up my hole. There we go. One goes in here. One goes in here. And the last one sits right there. Let me just tighten them up. And to disguise my little fastener there, I've drilled a series of holes. I'm going to stick in some more of the same fasteners. It's like a little dome-headed Allen key bolt. And now it looks like rivets, man. Same as what we've got down here on the running board. So we've got a bit of a theme going, I think. And you couldn't tell that some of them are there to hold the skirt in place, and it will be the same when the skirt is removed. So let's step back and see what this business looks like. Right, that's aired up. Let's slam her and see what that looks like. There's the view from behind. There's a problem here though, and I'm sure you also see it. This thing is too shiny, man. So it throws the eye completely. It needs to blend in with the rest of the fender. So I think I'm going to take it off and give it an instant rust treatment. And to get it off, you need to know which fasteners to take out. Especially up here. If you don't know, it's going to take a while to figure it out, I reckon. So this is one, and the other one sits right here. And there we go. So let's spray this with my instant rust hydrogen peroxide solution. I'm going to stick a link here on the screen for a video where I showed you how it works and what the recipe is and the proportions. Important thing to remember is that my recipe actually requires some eggs as a very important part of the mix. You better go check out the video if you want to know why. There's a bit of a oily spot right there, eh? But you can see this stuff pretty much acts almost instantaneously. So I'm going to leave it for a while and then we get back to it. After about 5 minutes in this hot sun, that's what I have. Let's give it another spray. Take a while for my newly created rust to get that sort of more mature color, if you know what I mean, a darker brown. So I'm just wiping it down with a damp sponge just so we can get it a little bit closer to the truth for now. That makes it blend in a little bit better. Down the line I will bring in a little, when I do refine the patina, I will bring in a little bit of this blue paint so that it will blend in even more. And there you have it. For the fender skirt fans, that's my version. And for you guys who didn't like a fender skirt, we can keep you happy too, man. I'll just hang it up here above the BS detector as wall art. It's a win-win for all of us, man. I can fit it when the mood takes me, and if the mood doesn't take me, I can leave it on the wall. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me out here in my forest shop. I enjoyed your company. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, have a lucky one, man.